Thank you. Now, the only one that the mayor is on his way. So the purpose of this special meeting is to try to come up with our priority list for the Parks Master Plan. Okay, so we've been asked to break it down: short-term, mid-term, long-term, 1 to 3 years, if you want to show that, or 4 to 6, and then 7 to 10. So we just want to have open discussion and go from there. So does anybody? Yes, right.
Well, Mary, do you also want to go over the actual document? If people have any comments on that for Jeff?
The master plan? Sure. That would be a good idea.
I mean, because that'll be moving forward with this.
Okay. Well, if anybody in going over the document, then that we've all had for probably a little over a week, if anybody has questions for Jeff, raise your hand. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, I have a bunch, not a bunch, but several. On page 6, there is Park Classy space ICUP space fine on acres.
Oh. Table 1.
Yeah,
Okay, you just want that.
what is that word?
You want to clarify it?
I think is it possibilities or something? Is that what's supposed to be?
I have no idea.
Classy, ICA, iron acres.
There's a couple of those.
Park classification acres.
Classification, that's the word.
Table 1 park classification acres. That's interesting because mine is didn't do that. That's strange.
Also on that same page,
Your F just missed.
F didn't work.
also on that same page, I have what, the way I do the arithmetic, we're at 9 a little bit acres per thousand. The goal is 10 per 1,000. We've got a whole lot more people than this, so we're behind, not being good. So I don't. And we can have a population growth of 6%, so I'm not sure how we could say, hey, we were the current standard of parkland. Well, I recommend it.
I'm sorry, to retain the same standard is different than what you have already. It's just to retain that 10 acres standard.
We're below the standard already.
Exactly, the standard is aspirational. It's intended for you to reach forward to get at it. And if there are, with your population, if there's acres where you're not making the standard, then of course we so this is what you need to get to your standard. This is what we think you're going to get to. We need to get to when the proposed population shows up.
And on page 11, in the second paragraph, we say 2009 master plan. Then on page 1, it has a 2002 master plan. So
Right.
I'm not sure which one we're talking about or why we have different.
We should. That was originally an error. I thought it was correct.
Page 9. Page 11. 11.
Okay, skip to page 85. 2 places here we have the cost recovery for parks 7%. That the cost recovery is greater than current 4%. And so I'm not sure how we can say 7% and then 4% at the bottom of the page.
I thought that was
Cost recovered for parks and recreation is 7%. And then down at the bottom, rate current and the 4% is not anticipated in the near future.
right. I see the 4%. Where is the 7%?
7% is up in the revenue to support parks and recreation service, 3 paragraphs up. Cost recovered parts, 7%. 7% is much better than 4%, especially if we're supposed to be targeting something higher than that. I'm not sure what's the right number.
Yeah, exactly. I see it's an error. We'll fix it.
It should be 4%.
I think so.
I think that's.
Brian, you had your hand up. I think. Did you?
I was just gonna ask, I think you asked a question maybe at the last meeting about going back to the previous,
Oh, did you do a comparison?
yeah, the master plan. You know, what's up the last master plan compared to this master plan? What, you know, obviously we didn't touch the last one, but what is still, we missed and it's still right there in our face that we need to take care of over the last 20 years? Do we have that?
I don't have it with me, but I did the same analysis.
Okay,
Although it's an older plan, I can tell you that there was quite a bit of what you wanted to do has actually been addressed. I can provide that. I just,
okay.
when I had left, I had thought that the last time we were kind of thinking about, as a staff memo to Ryan.
Okay, I'd just be curious to see what hasn't been addressed, I guess, for the last one to this one, to see if there's things that we, well, I guess there's still things that we need to take care of since we didn't really do much in the last 20 years.
I found one typo on page 45 at the bottom. That paragraph, it says OT findings from the survey. Those be the findings, I guess.
Yes. I remember correctly this one. Okay, because I did. Page 40.
Yeah, just a question. You said we have one recreation center. Is that the adult center? Is that what we count as a recreation center in the city? Okay, I just wasn't sure of this. I don't consider that a recreation center, but
I have one other comment. I don't understand why we have seasonal and ornamental plantings at Eco Park, which is supposed to be natural. That was 122.
320. I don't recall which page.
Page 122, objective 3.3,
Which one?
and page 122.
Sure.
Where are you? You're on 122. What part?
122, yeah,
It's
three seasonal
3.3.
and ornamental plantings down at the bottom.
Oh.
Eco Park with
Okay.
seasonal and ornamental plantings, which would be, that's not appropriate for
where
a
it's at.
natural habitat.
Okay.
It might be that we want to remove the invasive ivy and blackberries, which are not native, but that's a major problem. We've been working on it. I don't think we need to plant any ornamentals.
On page 2, Jeff, when we, right at the beginning, starting off, the city of Canby leadership and key stakeholders and community members were interviewed in July 2001. Wasn't that? Can we just do that? It should have
That
been.
was last time.
Should be 21. Should be 21,
Oh,
not 2001.
1, oh, gotcha.
Oh, yeah, which
Page 2.
Okay.
Page 2. 2001. 2020. Anybody else have anything for Jeff?
I'd like to try one more thing.
Sure.
It's on page 17. It's about the swimming pool. It's construct an additional swimming pool, which I totally agree with. It says the current pool is at or near maximum capacity. I'd like to add is old and in need of repair. I don't know if anyone agrees, but it is. Sometimes I can go places here. Oh, so
So plan to go, they haven't went to you all for me.
they're not gonna allow it anymore though. That was happened the last meeting. That's what the council voted it down.
Oh,
This was on page 17.
Yeah, at the very bottom, it's the last, it's the last dot there. Next to last, I'm sorry. not the
This,
last one.
this was actually from the city's comprehensive plan in 2019. And all I intended to do was to call out the kind of the history and what's happened. Rather than making changes in this, I can put an asterisk in the comment for them.
Whatever.
Maybe we should confirm because, all right, so the pool was going to do some constructions to renovate the pool, add-ons, things like that. And Scott had negotiated, right, with them to do an extended lease.
As directed by the council and its council goals,
Okay,
was to go out and get a long-term lease, yes.
okay, and then that came back to council for vote. And that got squashed.
Correct.
And so therefore, are the improvements that they were going to do at the pool, are those on hold? Because I know Eric Layton had gone out and got some bids to do a remodel. Has that been stopped then?
My understanding is that there are, that yes, the council, based on now continuing with the year-to-year lease is not planning on or is reconsidering making those improvements. The first goal was
I thought it was changed. They had a long-term lease negotiated.
they did negotiate a long-term lease, so it's gonna be a 10-year lease with 2 5-year extensions, which were basically at the same price we've been at. And so the first reading of it, I think it was a 5-1 or 4-2 vote to move forward with it. And then when it came up for second reading, the council unanimously voted it down.
What was the reason behind it?
Because the long-term goal was, they want to, ultimately, we want to own that dirt. And the school board or the school district is not, they're not wanting to do that. So the second option was to try to go for a long-term lease, which we secured. And then they changed their mind on didn't want to do a long-term lease. They wanted to own it outright.
Didn't they basically say it was just too much money? That's what I took from.
Well, there's no change in price, like it's the same price, the same rent and the same exchange for swim lessons for the last 5 years, so
Totally
there's,
agree
yeah.
with it. Listening to Sarah and Chris talk on, when I was watching the council meeting, it was, it's gonna be 640,000 over the 20 years.
Sure, yeah, over the life of the lease, yeah, it's gonna be X amount of dollars that you put into it. However, if you're now gonna do a year to year, like then, basically the city administrator has to go in every year and sit down with the superintendent and figure out, and that without it being locked in, I suppose the school district can come back and say, well, great, we're gonna take a 3% increase. I have no idea. I mean, I don't think they will, but, much like councils change, so do school boards. And
We kept going up year to year when, who was the last superintendent? I can't think of the guy's name.
Trip it all.
Yeah, Tripp.
Right.
He was there, he kept changing it almost all.
Oh, yeah, and he did not want to do a long-term lease.
Yeah, right.
So we finally have a superintendent and school board that wants to do a long-term lease. So because we don't own the dirt, the council is reluctant to make any investment in, in the
I
pool.
get it.
But it also puts the the adult center in limbo as well, because they, again, that's another situation where we own the building but not the dirt, and so they were getting ready to pull the trigger on some updates and improvements to their space. But they, they have an endowment that they draw from, not, the public's vote of the pool bond, which we've been putting aside money year over year to be able to do these upgrades, so, yeah, so I don't know where it stands right now. I think Scott Archer's gonna be bringing it back to the council to kind of ask like, okay, well, what's next? Are we just gonna, because that was, I think, $1.3 million we budgeted for those improvements. And so now, what now?
So we're gonna leave the pool in a state where it can fail at any time.
Well,
So the council should say, hey, we need to decide we're gonna build a new pool
Well, and that's,
on our.
well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, the pool team has done an amazing job keeping how old is it, 60-year-old building?
It's built in 1970.
Right, so, yeah, running and, doing a wonderful job at it, so, yeah, I think the hope and dream is that to be able to own the dirt and building on it, I think that's the long-term goal. We've had more to answer on that one. Ask your neighborhood-friendly city councilor. I can only tell you what I've seen and heard in the council meetings, and, I have my own opinions on it, but the council has pretty much made their decision on that.
Brian, by having it in the disaster plan though, allows us to, if we did.
Yes.
Include it in our projects.
Yes. Yeah, if they're not,
Does that make sense, Dave, on that?
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I mean, if the option is not to have it in here, I would say keep it in here. Because again, much like school boards, councils change as well. It could have a little different.
I want to keep it in here for sure.
Yeah.
Mindy, do you have any questions for Jeff
Yeah,
right now?
I do have one, on page 68, Jeff, under the bold trails connecting the city to walkable spaces and parks, on that first paragraph, last sentence, it kind of just trails up. I'm not quite sure what the English sentence there should form the
Framework to,
framework to.
Okay. I remember this edit. I don't know why.
Jeff, at the end of that second paragraph there, that last.
That says right.
Yeah, it should stop.
That's a good.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
That should be
I think it's all it was.
68, just the next paragraph.
do you have anything else, Mindy? Or do you want me to come back?
Yeah, no, I
Barbara?
think that's enough.
Okay. Terry, do you have anything for Jeff? Scott, do you have anything for Jeff? Lisa? Okay. So, not quite ready for priority, I think. Mindy, are you still looking? We can come back to that, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Jeff, do you have anything for Jeff? All right. So at this point, to start discussing priorities, or maybe I should let you?
No, I just, once we close out that item, we'll want to talk to Jeff about whether these are minor enough that we can get them done before the next council packet.
Oh, we'll have these done Friday. You'll have a copy on Friday or Monday.
Cool.
Did you have anything to go over with Jeff?
No. I'll probably do another pass for like super minor punctuation. Yeah.
Okay,
Can
well,
I-
yes, Barbara,
Are we ready to go priorities?
unless you have something to.
No, I was gonna suggest something about priorities.
Okay,
There's one interesting way to tease out priorities when you get a lot of players is to do around the table for every member. What is your first priority? What are we looking for? Stuff, what do we generally agree about? So if we went around, everybody gets a first priority, everybody gets a second, and pretty soon the short term you could be.
we'll fill in.
Fulfill itself there.
Okay, let's, I'm gonna start at this end of the table, and I'll go around. Lisa, short term, 1 to 3, what's your first priority?
My first priority is to establish a new park at the Auburn Farms Dodds Farm property. We promised that since 2006. We failed to meet that obligation, and I think we need to get on that right.
Who's training?
I thought Ryan, or you?
Well, do you, I don't care either way. Do you want to go around the circle first, or do you want to just start getting them out there?
Well, I think there goes.
So just kind of comment on your,
Yes.
since I've been on the park board for that long, plus 2 years. I can say that we never promised. That's always kind of rub for me when everybody says we promised. It was park land, yes, but that was the extent of our.
I'll add to mine that it is now in the master plan, that it
Yes.
is the most underserved area for a
Yeah.
park in Canby.
Okay, this is short term, right?
Yes.
Scott?
Finish Maple Street.
Okay. Terry?
I put 1.28 down as my first priority is the action to consider any of the new and unused funding opportunities identified during the master planning process.
1.2A.
So what did that one say? Sorry.
Consider any of the new and unused funding opportunities identified during the master planning process.
You wanted me to create a separate category that's like non-capital things?
Just put them in the list and it'll be clear if we're going to get
You can even put it down as 1.2A, I guess.
All about
Barbara?
And my first priority is not a project, a physical project. My first priority is to establish the Parks and Rec department and a professional administrator with professional credentials. I will amusingly say that we have one person on staff who could do that job, but his name is Scott Archer, and I don't think we're gonna get it. But we need somebody, I believe, to have a department and an administrator ASAP.
Mine, you've already covered with Auburn Farms, Maple Street. Mine would be to maybe, one of them would be a contract with a landscape architect to discuss developing the vision for Wade and Community Park. And I don't know as if we necessarily, I mean, a lot of people said, develop a master plan for it. I don't know as if we need to go to the master plan. I think we pretty much can discuss within our group or with the community or with our parks maintenance staff to decide what is needed at those facilities.
Make a plan.
Big plan. Does Jeff get the plan? No, okay, Ryan?
I would say, well, first of all, I want to say this is kind of complex because it sounds like with the direction the council goes, you never know what they're gonna do, and so what that need, like, you think the swimming pool would be kind of a no-brainer, but now that's back on the table, and you're kind of like, does that get shuffled into the deal, or, you know what I mean? So it's a little wonky, but that being said, I would say, finish up Maple Street. So I don't know if there's a check mark. I think your idea was to be finding like common denominators. So I guess that would be one of my first ones. So I don't know if you want to put like a second on that one. So finish that one.
Mine's the same, finish it, basketball and turf the infield, all that.
Well, if we're gonna, I mean, if we're, okay, go ahead.
And I go for the proper, thoughts, like we want to call it the first one.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go around the room and say, I mean, because I think a lot of us probably have the same things, and if you're gonna put tick marks on each of those, I mean, because I also had Auburn Farms and finished Maple Street, so I
Just go around, it'll become apparent what the really popular ones are.
okay, do we come back? Does anybody have anything else to,
What do you got, you guys?
Mark's already added to Auburn Farms.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Mark added his to Auburn Farms. Do you have any more, anything additional to add to,
No, I feel strongly about finishing it too.
okay, Scott? Terry?
Are we, well, I had also listed a little further down the list about the vision plan for community park. So are we going to do another round, or are we just going to look at our first
I
choices
hope
right
we
now?
go around and find, tease out everything.
Yeah, we could do that. We'll probably go around again. Red, did you have any additional?
Oh, I do. I have built a significantly scaled down dog park, bells and whistles, to be added later. And for your amusement, I would say we could possibly in the future do named amenities, that is to say, donations can be made to. Donations from the community can be very helpful in getting bells and whistles added to things. And my example would be, for example, there could be the Barry Johnson gazebo in the dog park.
Awesome.
So what you gotta pay for.
Just got to write a check.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna take a couple years to get there.
Yeah, I beat you to it.
I'm scratching the dog park.
Hey, Brian, dog park with naming, not as a separate item, the dog park, which happens to get, and I said scaled down, that's the most important thing, because that's got a very big tag on it, right?
Well, we know what the name of the dog park.
I'm afraid that.
Let's be nice.
What?
Let's be nice.
Oh, the dog, I'm sorry. Did you have, okay, I also have that part down there. We need to acquire additional land, and I'm not sure that would be short-term or mid-term.
I am not sure.
You do? Yeah, we need to acquire additional land for parks.
Not building anymore. No, that's for sure.
Ryan, you got more?
I was, so my number 2 was land acquisition. Well,
Give Ryan a tick mark. Ryan. David?
I had on, and I have a whole bunch of different stuff, but it's the buy land. But that's on all my 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 10.
I have that too, but it's not on the short term, because it's a long term deal with the land. But
Getting new land, I put making new land in midterm for starts.
All right, sounds like we're starting to hit the
Exactly, that
same.
is.
My short term, if you want, they're mostly up there now. Community park upgrade was one, the dog park, and I said new location with expenditure less than 350,000. Update Maple Street, playgrounds, and courts. I had playgrounds in there too.
Well, I think in our vision for Maple Street, that included
And then
playground.
as a subdivision of upgrading Maple Street, it was artificial turf,
Yes.
the courts, and also legacy, some artificial turf. So that would be all my short terms. A lot of them are up there.
Okay, well, that's, Lisa, let's go back to you, and why don't you just list up, because if they're all up there, why don't we just list off your short terms?
The
What are your-
only one that's not up there that I would like to see is perhaps site a future athletic complex.
And that may go along with acquiring more land, because I don't know if we have anything right now. How about you, Scott?
Is this going to council?
Yes?
Can, Brian, just for clarification, on the short term, can you put 1 to 3, 4 to 6, and 7 to 10, so they know? And we won't overstress.
What did we say, 3 to 5?
4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Sorry.
7 to 10?
Yep, thank you.
Did you have anything else,
No.
Terry? Anything right now under short term?
This is steering committee or is it?
This is steering committee, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
come back, I'll come to you, Tech, I forgot.
Well, I have a number of things that I don't really see them as great priorities, but I do see them as things that are doable in the short term. So I'll just list them. They'll get eliminated if people don't agree. So instead of making the enhancement of the disc golf course as a midterm project, as it's proposed, I would prefer, we recommend utilizing volunteer help like Jeff is already doing, and make the existing course just more appealing and playable to promote it instead of trying to make it a regional attraction.
And I had that under my 4 to 6, but I said move it. Because it's in the, I mean, yeah, that forest is, I mean, people lose their deaths. I can imagine trying to maintain it is a nightmare. I would think if we could put it in a more open space, it might get used more, but I don't play this dolls.
Okay. I think I heard begin work on a strategic plan from somebody else, and I agree with them. We'll start working with volunteers. My other one is also not a place, it's what I think we gotta do in order to get stuff done, and that is my words are marketing communication initiative. I think we need to begin in short term, reaching out and collaborating with other city committees and functions, get their help. Because one of our intentions is to build community support for maintenance fee and for eventual increase in SDCs. So there is a section in the master plan about marketing and communications and the importance that we ought to give to making it better known. This is what we do for you folks, and this is all the wonderful stuff. So, but doing it in a very professional way. So that's really high priority for me. So it's outreach, but mostly it's marketing and communication. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just, go down Auburn Farms, Maple Street, landscape architect, more land, dog park, establish a Parks and Recreation District. You could put Capper, yes.
Is that a now or is that a midterm?
Well, it might get moved, but
It'll go midterm.
I mean, I'm just saying what I had at one for now. The only other ones that I had was, we need to develop a better recreation program for all ages. And review parks on a one-on-one basis to determine the viability and how we see them in the future.
Is that last one, would that be a check mark by the department administrator, or is that a separate? We're talking about creating programming, I would assume, right? Kind
The recreation
of,
program,
yeah. Does that kind of go,
that
is that a separate entity than that, or is that a?
could go along with that. I mean,
A lot of this stuff would be facilitated by having a department and an administrator. I think that's pretty clear.
Well, I just didn't know if it's a separate item or if it's a check mark, being like, yes, people want, you know what I mean?
Right.
Uh,
in the programming would be that's the recreation part of it. And then the review parks to determine how we see them, and the viability, what they're going to become.
Like a formalized process?
Yeah, we look at them at a one-on-one basis and see what do we think we need to do with legacy, what do we need to do with focus, what do we need, and maybe some of them don't need anything, you know, what do we do with artisan? So review the parks on a one-on-one basis, you know. Assessment, good. Mindy,
I do think that Capper, something to be moving on. And the acquisition of parkland. And then also, I think there's things, since it was kind of at the top of a lot of lists on the trails thing, on the trails list, there's some, getting the overall plan going for that. I lost my page, sorry. We're 3.4, objective 3.4, A and B. Just put up expanded, enhanced connected trails and open spaces. Get a plan to get up there.
A trails plan?
Yeah,
develop the trail.
long-term trails master plan. And then base development.
That's long term.
So is that under long-term? Well, you have to
Well,
start with a plan. The
If
plan
we get them
is-
listed, and we can move them.
We're gonna be moving.
We're gonna move
some
some.
Yeah. I mean, $20,000 to $30,000 to get the plan going, and then you can appeal for dollars as the years go on. Okay.
Do you have
Trying
more,
to
Mindy?
begin strategic planning. We're starting work on strategic plan.
For parts one by one?
In general for Parks and Rec committee. I guess that's sort of. Starting to think strategically.
Mindy, did you have any more?
But that's it.
Did you have any more to add to that?
No.
Ryan?
I guess, well, I'll go back to the pool, I guess, the 1 and 3, I guess we better figure that thing out, right? Right. So the pool, and then I would like to see some type of, and this kind of goes in with the dog park, I believe we're going backwards, is putting together some type of master plan for the eco park, wayside property, that whole area. Kind of playing that out first before we just start jibby-jabbing dog parks and something else in there first. So have a seismic scope on it and go that route. So, That's it.
David?
I had also to upgrade the playground equipment at Wake Park and remodel the swim center dressing rooms, start the trail system, master plan. Also, I was work with the state on the Malala River State Park things. Get that involved. If you got that, we got the Mark, did you have
I
any
think the only other
additional?
things I have on my list, since we're putting everything under what the short term is, after funding for Catbird and an agreement for how it's going to work out with the city, establish if it's possible, establish the Park and Rec Department of that. And I also had upgrade the logging and road trail and then add the traverso section. So it's basically the trail system. And then long-term was a community center, sports complex. This is a long-term goal for me.
This is just
Really
my
got-
short-term stuff.
Well, half the things are
Well, we're
on the
gonna
short term, and so everything is all together. So I just say we're putting all the things up here on short term. We can say, hey, we can't do, it's impossible for anybody to do all of those things in short term.
Jeff can.
Jeff can't.
No, we can't.
No one can. We can't do all those things. We don't have enough money.
Well, I think,
That's not the point.
yeah, I think, I mean, because I've got 4 to 6 years and 7 to 10 years stuff, but I think we've got short term. We need to determine what our top priorities are out of that short term.
Why don't we get all of the ideas up there first? If you say you have more for 4 and 6, what are those that are not on this list already?
Well, I wouldn't
Let's
put-
get all of those things out there and then we can prioritize who, where.
I don't have any more short term, I'm done
Yeah, but-
there. And I'm good because I don't want to add. I don't wanna
Just put them
add-
onto the short term list.
But I do think that we
We
can.
need to get
if
all the
any
ideas
sense-
up here before we start saying, oh, yeah, I want that. Because then we'll say, oh.
Do we have any sense that some of these items seem to have more general support by the committee? And I do think there's some things, the land thing,
Right.
that allow dog parks had 3, 4. What else did we generally keep hearing about?
Finish
Maple
Maple
Street, finish Maple. Auburn
Maple,
Farm.
Maple Street. Can you circle the ones that seem to get a lot of,
Auburn Farms, I would say.
dog park,
Acquire land came up.
farmland?
Acquire land, yeah.
I've heard 4 mentions of dog park that.
Well,
Not necessarily,
it wasn't,
not to build it, well, could be to build, it was to maybe scale it down.
Yeah.
Or redesign, or think about it.
yeah, yeah. Vision plan, I think,
Vision.
way to community.
I think every little, fine little village has a center park. Wake Park needs a thorough
Yeah.
overhaul. Short and mid.
Did I hear 3? Granted, I'm a broken record, but did I hear 3, Mark, me, and, I'm sorry,
David?
David, on the trails plan? I have that listed also. So that's.
For
4.
trails in general or for traverso?
Well, I think that's traversal kind of falls under trail, it would be part of the trails.
See, and this is where I agree with Mark, because when starting to talk trails, I have that in midterm, not short term.
Mine was just sort of talking about it and figuring out what, the direction you want to
I
go.
agree.
See, and I think that's what Mark said, well, let's get them all listed, and then we can decide where they're gonna
Actually,
fall.
that's Mindy's group is gonna come to that, and then we will say, yeah, we need to do this development, if we're gonna do this.
Well, but this meeting here is the steering committee, and it's they're part of
Yeah.
that, so.
And I mean, we have trails grants and transportation grants and things like that, things, funnels money into that can help find money for developing a plan, doing some things.
On that list that's up there right now, under short term. Okay, the things that we'd like to see in 1 to 3 years. Did we star the ones that we think, because the other ones maybe move over to midterm, or can we kind of determine?
The only thing I'd like to see on that short-term stay is pool upgrades too.
Sorry.
Other than that, that's,
Start,
if we get all that done in 1 year, that's a miracle.
Or in 3 years, I think that's a lot to get done.
It
Yeah.
is a lot.
So,
Should that be pool updates or should be, let's build a new pool?
Well, I think a new pool, but that's more in the longer one,
Well,
right?
if we're saying, hey, we're gonna build a new pool, you don't wanna put it short-term down. Big money into the
I
pool.
think that's gonna come under, if Cabot comes to fruition, that's probably when we're gonna start talking about those large capital projects.
They have the money to do the pool upgrade today.
yeah,
It's just sitting there.
I want to go back to event outreach, marketing, and communication. Because I think we can partner with economic development, for example, the big opening day for Maple Park. In order to get us better known and more valued and be able to pass a vote on maintenance plan on STC, more STC money. I'd like for us to go really hard in this first 2 or 3 years about getting more recognition, more understanding, more community involvement in Parks and Rec. And so I think that kind of outreach with the help of economic development and maybe a couple of other city committees and some volunteers. I think if we do that, then we have a chance of having that result in more revenue. Revenue is really important. So that's my case for that one. But we have to do things to make that happen. But I'm not hearing any unanimous applause.
I did have something listed about establishing an email distribution database so that we can start communications. Newsletter, recruit volunteers,
See,
promote events.
that would be great, but who's doing it? We don't
That
have
would be a
anybody
Parks and
that-
Recreation department.
Department, yeah, how are you?
You're retired, Barry.
Yeah.
First, we gotta have.
No.
That's a chicken or the egg, and we want to get some community support.
Well, yeah. There's,
So is there enthusiasm for pushing and see if we can get an department established and get an administrator in here that can move us forward much faster than we can do ourselves? And
we should probably start the Parks District. Establish Parks. He's got it right there.
Oh, it's clear. It's administrator.
Okay, so now,
my first poll.
Yeah.
Friday.
okay,
That's a good one.
extend the parks maintenance.
That way we can keep the employees we have.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can take that one off pretty
Yeah.
quickly, right?
Take off,
Okay.
We
I like we start last.
Yeah, hopefully we get the,
Check.
Check, but we've essentially done that, if you've written a letter.
well, the letter's written, and is it gonna go to council tomorrow?
In the packet for council.
So that doesn't need to be in the short-term plan.
Very much
It's
sure.
just done.
We're having a work session on it tomorrow.
Just like they did with the swim, they might turn it down, but I think it needs
So
to
they
be up
turned
there.
down that we could go, let's say, average.
Yeah, I think it needs to be up there, and start, you should start that.
Mr. Mayor, is there something that can be, I don't know how to phrase it, but so we don't end up in this dog park dilemma where like there's a process instead of, like right now, the city council essentially doing the park on their own, minus the park and rec board, right? Is there a way to put some administrative language, like it needs to maybe go through the, I'll say the proper channels? Or is that just because you're on city council, you got kind of the, you can kind of do what you want? That make sense?
Yeah, it does. You're putting me in a really.
I'm not asking, I was just asking if there is, and maybe that's a city administrator.
I think I got COVID, I gotta go. So this is I know that this is a very, very tough topic, and the council position is that Parks Board made a recommendation. They didn't like the recommendation and decided that they didn't want to, they wanted to continue the dog park moving forward, and this is the way that they've done it. Now, can language be created? Again, coming from this board, it would be, what does that language look like? What is that you want, to have adopted by, council regarding parks and a process? Because over the years, I know we've talked about, like any new development coming in, if there could be a park discussed, that it should come to the, this committee to take a look at and determine, does this make sense? Or do we want just, to opt out and say, no, we don't want a park here when we've got park X that's already on the books for the plan, right? So, those are things we've talked about, but not been necessarily codified in any kind of process, right? So, yeah, I think creating a process for some of these parks pieces, and again, all of this is going to come to the council here in 2 weeks to hash out and go through. So, will these lists look the same when that's done? I don't know. So I don't know if that answers your question. I mean,
Well, yes, I guess I'm just trying to, in the future, trying to stay away from these situations, I guess.
Well, the one thing that, we did go to council with letters and read the letters to council, that we just don't arbitrarily pick a location where arbitrarily it was decided in 2014, they said. But we should be looking at all the options and put all those options on the table and do a comparison, do a comparison, a cost evaluation of what works best, for the money. And that was turned down. Council said no.
If that's just the way it needs to go, and people, the voting variety can make their decisions based off what's passed. I just didn't know if there was some type of, if we were maybe missing a step in our parks process that maybe we could put in and say like, okay, here's the actual process for these things.
yeah, in everything that you all have done regarding, just this particular park piece, I don't think there's anything you guys did that wasn't part of the process. I think you all here in this room wanted it followed, right? Like here's the process that we have been following, and the big ask was, well, let's wait for the master plan and see where things fall. And again, like the question has never been, we don't want a dog park, right? It's where is the best way to get this accomplished, and in a fiscally responsible kind of fashion that allows us maybe to do some more additional things instead of less things, right? So I think this group did what it was tasked to do regarding that particular park. And I think then that it just rolled along at the council level outside of what you all recommended it did. That's a challenge with, the only other board that I see that concur with was the library board with the library and civic building, and then occasionally the council does that with the planning commission, but
that's a whole different animal. That's more legislative than it is a community board. But again, we have community boards for a reason, right? You represent the community. And so, at this point, the dog park has gone to pre-construction, Jerry?
We've been through pre-Abbott County and pre-Abbott City.
So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, it's on at this point.
It's pretty much it.
It's where it's going right now. So I wouldn't have to, they would have to take much more than recommendations from the park committee at this point.
My question is that we have a master planner in the room, so I'm wondering if we could ask this Jeff to comment on anything he sees glaringly missing or glaringly should not be there. You got any professional comments for us about this list? Sorry.
No, I appreciate that. I think you've got pretty much everything up there that's, the maintenance fee was important to, I saw that came out. I think you've captured all the main.
Fine tune this into 1 through 5 or something, or they just go like, these are,
Well, I would-
things are important.
Some of these things don't cost any money, they just cost
Right,
time and energy and effort.
we've got how many things started there?
That's seven.
7, 8, 9, 10. You got 10 items. Yeah, and like Barbara said, some don't cost any money, it's just
It's just how are we gonna get it done?
yeah. So I mean, you could separate them to cost and you can separate, those that have a monetary value and those that don't, like extending the park's maintenance fee. It's not gonna cost us anything to do, it's just a matter of vote. So hopefully it all goes well tomorrow. So, I mean, that one we could tick off right away.
Yep.
Uh,
Good idea.
So I don't know, do we want to end up with a short-term, mid-term, and long-term list, or do we want to concentrate on the
Oh,
short-term right now?
No, we need to
Thinking out
move
through.
forward.
Okay, so I guess, Ryan, of the starred items that are there, and to Ryan's point, do we want to kind of narrow it down to
I
5?
wasn't sure where this, how it goes to council, like what are they looking for?
Well, there's gonna be a staff report that goes to council, so I thought I would probably distill this with Lisa's help, since you're taking notes too, right? Because you don't want just me interpreting this, but I thought, maybe Barry too. Because ultimately, there's gonna be a staff report that says, hey, we're recommending approval of this document, but also here's our priority list.
Okay,
but I agree, that's a great idea. I think there have been some standout things that there's been a lot of energy in the room. Maple Street is one of them. Vision planning for parks. I mean, kind of getting a handle on what we want. We want Wade Park to be a great park. And so I think it's possible to tease out some general categories that might be more interpretable by city council or more persuasive, maybe.
I guess in my experience, the shorter term list is better for concrete things.
Process
So-
things are separate.
Yeah, because some things like, establish a department or, even Capper, there's so many unknowns there that
Right.
it's super important, but it may drift to that one, I would think.
I would say we should take which ones we want to keep on the short term and which ones we want to move over, and just go down the list and say, move it to short term or mid-term and move it to.
Put an arrow beside stuff that's likely to get into year 4.
Highlight one.
I do. Would you like it?
Highlight
That's what you,
the ones
that's
that
what you put the star by.
Oh, you do?
That's what you put the star by, the ones we want to stay on short term.
Okay, so I'm designating things that are might shift, is that what I'm doing? So what do we think those are?
Well, maybe if you did a circle, the star, the ones that need to stay short term.
Okay, so,
Auburn Farms,
Yes.
Maple Street. And you could bracket those two, vision plan for weighted
Yeah,
community.
let's get our act together about our two major parts. Dog park.
Yeah,
Dog park is a circle.
Well,
It's already a done deal, so.
yeah, well,
I mean, we got, right?
sure. As far as council's concerned,
We can put it on there, we can put it on there, just let them know that.
It's ongoing,
So
so.
better.
so circle it.
yeah,
Shouldn't acquire land for future parks go into the midterm or narrow over to midterm?
It's- it certainly could. It's kind of ongoing. We'd want to do it now, or, I mean, it's ongoing.
It's gonna take us a while to do it. It's not gonna be.
It's not gonna be.
I think you
1 to
gotta
3
start
years.
now, but you're probably gonna end up there, but if you don't start now, that, there's
Start
not gonna be
the-
anything left.
Start the discussion now, sure.
The discussion is, hey, when we get to 4 years, we want to be able to tell you where to do land.
I think at least in the short term, Cabot is gonna be able to decide whether or not they're gonna be,
But
is
that's-
it or isn't it?
Yeah, but that's a process more than a concrete
True,
project.
okay.
So we're trying to find the projects
Okay.
that we envision are
Yeah,
of the
okay.
most important.
And then there's a separate list of ways to get there.
So the land acquirement, is that circled?
Yeah,
Might as well start with.
and it can also appear on the midterm.
Right.
You know, I think it is gonna go all the
Yes.
way
All the
across
way.
all three.
Yes. Okay, and then extend the parks maintenance fee.
The last ones are Capper, Trails Plan, and pool upgrades.
Trails plan is probably gonna go also into midterm.
No, it doesn't. It's already,
Yeah, we know.
because we can get the plan going. You have to get a plan going, and that's a matter of,
You have to get funding going.
yes,
Sorry, funding is not.
it already, yes.
Yeah.
We
You guys got
have-
a grant to be able to do the plan.
We've already, the plan is done, we just need to do, for the Traverso section. Okay. But we're only working on phase one.
Well, but
We're
develop
talking
trails,
about a connected trail system was number one in the request for people, and we can at least get that connected trails plan going for $20,000 to $30,000.
But is that a big emphasis on the traversal property?
No.
Is that not that?
No, because they're talking more emerald necklace.
The emerald necklace, yeah, the
Yeah,
traversal
because
stuff,
this
is-
is what I'm.
there's too many
And I did.
outside
community, so,
Which the Emerald Necklace we're working on.
Go to the pool.
but when that's
I like
one of
the
your
pool
main
upgrades.
requests by the public
Pool
for a
upgrades.
connected trail system, and here
Yeah, it's a-
on 3.4A, a long-term trails master plan with focus on connecting neighborhoods, parks, and trails.
And develop trails plan, that's it.
So that's, the logging road is a different thing down below on 33.4C and 3.
Now, when we're talking to develop the trails plan, are we putting the emerald necklace, is that the emerald necklace?
Yeah, and you can even put on there 3.4A. Okay, that spells it out anyway.
That's the
What's that?
trail, that's the trails master.
yeah, I know, but is it about the traverso and getting the connecting stuff, or is it about having trails better serve the community? And I mean, trails plan is a lot more than just which ones do we
Right.
do now.
See, the emerald necklace,
And they use on page 123, 3.4A, it spells it out there. And so if you refer to 4, that's all I'm saying. Is that the traverso and the logging trail, those all.
thanks.
up here.
As long as it's broadly considered to meet all trails, not just particular projects.
Traverses is a problem.
So it's basically to develop a trails master plan.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think just mapping it is just a really good way to start. Mapping should actually.
I have a recommendation on that. What I do with the streets, CIPs, and with the sewer stuff is I have another list of other projects that are cheaper, so that with budgeted funds, if you want to add fill in, sure, you know, like $20,000 or
Yeah.
$30,000 to keep stuff rolling for that type of stuff, if we want to do that. Where a project rolled into another budget, you want to add it, we can do something like that, maybe bury it.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that.
It's not cheap and easy. if you
Right.
want to add it to the-
Fill it in. I think you've got, I think those items circled are good. I think the other, and that's our short-term our short-term recommendations. Now, anything else on that list, I guess we would carry over to midterm or long. I guess we need to decide which.
There's a bunch of stuff that cannot be done in the short term. It will be starting now, carrying through into mid or not long.
Right. So, I don't know, revisit funding sources, where would you drop that?
I have a major midterm item for that.
We'd already decided on the fire parks plan.
Okay.
Why don't we look at the master plan here and see what these are, where they fit on this, and what Jeff has as short-term, mid-term.
Well, Jeff just said maybe we could go around the room again and say, okay, what is your midterm? And see if we have anything to add. So, Lisa, why don't you start us off?
I would like to see Wake Park renovated in that 4 to 6 year period. Complete.
Okay, talk about, about having it renovated.
Have it we talk about it in the 1 to 3, get the plan going,
Right,
but then by the end of the 6 years, it's redone.
And make it really, really good.
Yes.
yeah,
Meets the vision that's established in the short term.
And
okay.
therefore, get time.
Put a tick by the same thing. Wait for it.
Scott says the same thing. Terry?
I have Wake Park as
Terry? With his tick.
I got one giant one for midterm, and that is make a major commitment and take action to increase non-tax revenue. I mean, we've got so much opportunity and so much need to have non-tax revenue. Right now, we're pretty much business as usual. We get these monies, et cetera. And I think this is the page 85 thing. We're 4% of our 4% versus what was it, 30% of national, 27% national. Very small part of our revenue comes from non-tax revenue. And I think there are lots of things that we can be looking into that provide us with non-tax revenue. So my plea for midterm is let's get really, it doesn't cost us, it costs time and energy and creativity. But I'd really like us to start thinking in terms of we got to have more than 4% to have any discretionary revenue at all. So that's my pitch.
Would grants be on that?
Grants, getting grants is one way. I had a list here. I don't think that.
The problem is we
Oh.
need somebody to write.
Public-private, here's my list. Public-private relationships, state grants, assistance from the industrial area. I think we ought to involve them in getting some things going. Pepper. And then help from county volunteers. There are lots of areas, dog parks all over and other parks where volunteers become a really major source of getting work done and getting things in the newspaper. I mean, there's a huge opportunity for volunteers who really want to help parks be better.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when the eco park first went in, all these volunteers were gonna have.
Right.
How'd that work? Would that last about 3 months?
Yeah, because somebody didn't do it very well.
Well, that's your volunteers. I
No,
mean,
it's now, what volunteer helpers work if they're properly organized and properly supervised, but it's hard to do.
it's very hard to do. And it rains and it is cold and it's ugly out there, like Kara with the ivy.
Right.
Now, the first 4 weeks, boy, they went after. And then all of a sudden, done.
I'm not necessarily talking about their digging.
No, I don't know, and we need, and we would help, we need to lean on our industrial park. We're getting some big companies there now.
That's
Hey,
some
we'll
of
change
them
our-
volunteers, sure.
You know,
That's my big one.
I think the business opportunities, trying to get them to contribute.
That's right.
I mean, it's like, maybe they would sponsor the Feel of the Field, if they were approached. All right, Terry, you were at that, Wade Parker did, so I guess it's me. I have developed the property donated in Ivy Ridge Estates. In Fort Smith. Where's that? Oh, Ivy. South side of town, south side of town.
Yeah, it's go Ivy Pastoral Village, when you can go in there in the new homes, there's a big section.
Oh, I know.
We were gonna try to have it irrigated grass planted.
I mean, that was a good piece of land that was donated. Unlike some of the other properties that we've got. Okay, Ryan.
We're just doing one, or we just name all of our mid-range. Sports complex. The wayside, some development on the wayside property for that whole area, and Wade Park. Well, check on that.
Say athletic complex, what did you actually mean as far as how far into that needed?
Well, I would love to see it completed, but it just kind of depends on what we get with the acquisition of that piece. So,
Just so long as it's continuing.
so
Yeah.
there's some conversation that it's, yeah, it'll be on my long-term goal.
Wait, park on state, since you don't have it on the short term.
He's got it there.
Okay.
Mark,
What you got?
you already gave all yours.
Yeah, wait, park.
David,
I had sports field complex also, similar where it's gonna go along to 7 to 10. And rec center with the pool. And also Wade Park, I had online too.
On your midterm.
Yeah. But the other one, last one I had too, was river access to the 11. I saw where people were wanting that.
on long-term or mid?
No, midterm.
Would that go along with
Yeah,
Wayside?
yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking, is starting to put some of our.
Wayside development.
Or we could acquire the Malala River.
Right.
Both ones there.
And I have an item that I forgot, which is ramp up recreation programs, outdoor equipment, developed parks, including some of those that could bring in some revenue as well. I'm obviously on revenue.
Gary.
So,
Right.
right, that's right. Is there any revenue, if we had the appropriate athletic fields, is any revenue opportunity in that for tournaments and that?
Typically, they don't charge to get in to those. You could do, I mean, I know like Salem, back in good old days, they have a pretty extensive concession stand that sold beer. Of course, I mean, they have, there's people there all the time, but, so yeah, there is definitely, it wouldn't be from the gate, it would be more from, well, I mean, if you put a program into place, and the city would be making money off the entry fees and whatnot.
Exactly.
At this point,
What do they do like at Wallace Marine Park? I mean, is that,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's, they don't charge, at least, well, they might. When they do those national tournaments, I don't know how they do that, but all the ones I've been to, you can get in free and then you just kind of spend money right at the concessions
Right.
and, you know, and then there could be money, I guess, on the rental of the facility, as well. So if we want to come in and have a tournament, they have to pay the city.
All right, Mindy, I'm coming back.
That is cool charges, so I mean, maybe that's in, you know, if a team comes in, sometimes it's $450 a team. You break that down, you know, for trophies, umpires, but there should be a fee in there for Maple Street or wherever you're gonna.
Sure.
The high school gets money for when their fields are.
Yeah, but I personally, because that's how North Clackamas does it, so
Yeah.
the old, what's the new high school, that's, used to be that full turf complex down up there. Where they're, you know, North Clackamas, where they're Little League, they have to pay to use that.
Yes.
So now, you basically, again, just charging more because now you're using facilities, on an everyday basis, I don't like that, on certain tournaments, I think that's fine, because you're gonna make some money.
Yeah.
But just to use them, because I think it just causes programs increase prices to now use fields. The high school does a good job. They charge $2 an hour for the grass field, and $25 an hour for turf. So we should do it.
Mindy?
I'm just pointing out. So under this trails objective, I mean, this is the short-term goal, these are the midterms. So I'm trying to indicate my support. That's page 1. So, so yes, midterm for phase trail.
Again, Ryan, it's like,
And
she's talking 3.4 on page 123 instead of, I don't know if you want it. 3.4,
B,
B, C, and D,
Yeah.
instead of writing all those down.
Yeah,
I guess it all has to do with trails.
yeah, just write trails and then write 3.4 B, C, and D. And it's indicated as midterm goals for that, and then that only aims. And then otherwise, sports complex and wayside river access.
Bottom of the list, you can write, clean up whatever we didn't get done in the short term.
No, I've got a few more. Is that one?
Okay.
Yeah. And again, one of these is probably, it doesn't have any, it's not. Concrete, increase parks general fund budget to pay for required FTEs. Full-time employees.
So if people within 4 to 6 years.
Well. Sorry, I would. You got the parks maintenance fee, you got the parks maintenance fee right here.
Oh, you're saying.
Might not be the general fund if it comes from capital.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So it could be capital.
25, 26.
That's gonna be right on the edge of that. That'll change
This one.
That's it.
I also had developed the Honda pits located by the police station because, I mean, we own the land, it's not being used for anything. Can't get them to put a dog park in there, so
We've heard that.
maybe we can use it for something else, I think ball fields. I had trail system, logging road, that was. Relocate the Frisbee golf.
It's a different kind of populations currently using.
Right. The swim center I had. One of the other things was they called it develop pedal park. Like they have.
What was that one?
Develop a pedal park,
Like a
PETA,
BMX.
like a bike thing.
Yeah.
be spot down by the one of its.
That's,
That's-
George, Chief Tro's on board with that too.
Yeah,
That's what it used to be. Not more than it is.
No, like,
Bikes, like
bikes.
these BMX pedal.
Yeah, you have to do the motorcycles at night. Start to skate.
okay, so,
I haven't heard anybody mention the skate park. Is it okay as it is?
Well, they need a shade center over there, but that's doable.
And a restroom.
there could be a restroom or a dog park.
Yeah.
More money.
Who did? They ripped the trees. Which is why they don't have trees now.
And it's by the police department.
Yeah,
Can we move the establishing the recreation department over to the
Yes.
I think everybody is. Are there any other items other than transferring the items that we have that didn't get start circled here that are need to get transferred? Does anybody have any other midterm?
The only thing I had was establish a community center, and I don't know if that kind of goes along with the upland complex.
Me too, but I had it in long term.
So we know, it. I mean, we know that we're gonna transfer some items from short term to midterm.
That's what I was thinking with that rec center.
Well, do we want to do that since we're gonna probably star them on here? Is there one specific one you want me to do? The funding is kind of covered here, the department administrator.
Wait card is showing up again.
Well, that's just
Oh,
a
it's there.
complete, yeah, we're gonna, yeah. There'll be a visioning in the 1 to 3 years, but completed in the 4 to 6.
The only big ones we don't have moved is Capard and the outreach strategy.
And again, those aren't really projects that will cost.
Yeah, that's a separate list item with, for things that are not, don't cost money, but would cost effort and commitment. There are several of them up there.
Do you want to, on the visioning, we kind of put these two together, but we didn't do anything with the community park one? Either we need to add community park to this list, or we maybe move the visioning to this list and then community park to that list. I don't know if we want to vision 7 years
I don't know if they could.
in advance. I don't know if we want to vision now and then have it 7 to 10 years later. I don't think that's.
I think the vision for Wake Park, Wake and community ought to be in the midterm. Vision. I don't know.
You gotta get the plan, you gotta get the plan.
It should be
I just.
Okay.
completed in the midterm.
So you're saying, that's what I'm saying. Do we need to put community park?
Community park and Wake Park over here is completed.
So he said,
Renovate Wake
Our
Park.
community park is not, is not on this list, right?
Renovate community park over here.
What if we, just a suggestion, put vision plan in the midterm with community park in the long term, finish it. Because we already know they're putting in a new restroom, additional parking, they're addressing some of the immediate needs that need to happen. So I don't know, just a suggestion.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but the vision in this one and then the completion in that
for community
one.
park,
Community park. Because it sounds like it's already getting some TLC ASAP.
okay,
I interpret vision plan to me, this is time for us to get ready, figure out what we want to do
what do we want to do?
with whether it goes out to bid or can be completed sooner.
We could, yeah, we could certainly vision it now, but renovate in 7 to 10.
Do the renovations.
Because if you hire I mean, if you're gonna get a landscape architect or somebody in, you know, have them come in, and we can begin to, we don't wanna hire them now, come in, look away, then hire them later on, might as well do it all at once, right?
We can't afford both. Wade's the top priority community parks now.
I agree.
But to visit it, you can't, I mean, you
Well,
have,
I think you're gonna spend,
Sorry.
well, it's likely, they're two separate projects, so they're gonna have to be two separate,
Yeah, you should vision it.
you're gonna
Yeah,
spend.
you would be surprised how much these cost. you know?
oh,
Oh, yeah, and how long it takes.
Huge.
okay, we'll move it.
Move the
Move it.
vision community over there.
Yeah.
Good.
Just sidebar, has anybody been down to community park on a weekend when it's hot?
I have one.
And I would highly recommend drive down. It's scary.
Serious.
It's I don't even want to put any money into it because those people, I don't care who you are, they do not take care of it. It's disgusting.
What's it like when you go there on Monday?
Oh.
Not good. Just garbage everywhere.
And then,
Jeff, how do you handle that kind of stuff? Is it just a huge drain on your activities to do the cleanup or?
It's just people, that's one of our first places we focus on, unless we've had to bench. So we're like waiting for people. Just prioritize what the biggest need is gonna be. I usually get right this time of year, I've got 4 people on it every day.
Really?
We've even started a little bit of weekend stuff here and there. And we didn't have anyone this weekend and it was a nightmare on Monday.
you want to renovate community over long term.
Before you leave midterm, can we add, continue the work of interesting the industrial sector to step up and help us with some kinds of things, whether it's money or people or whatever.
There's opportunities.
A lot of their employees live in Canby, are Canby citizens. I want industrial.
Does that fall under increasing
Here it is.
tax revenue?
Good,
Right.
thank you.
And Ryan, while you're standing there, I'll just give you my 7/10 now since you're ready.
Okay, hold on, I think I'm losing all my here.
You're ready.
Yeah.
Develop the athletic complex and recreation center. And,
I think I'll always have that one.
yeah, I could easily put it in there. Continued discussion on the traversal property. Pending property owners acceptance. I don't know, it's tough. That's tough.
Mindy, of those homeowners on the Traverso, have they lightened up a little bit, or are they still, most of them dead set against it?
We had a walkthrough with the gun club, the property owners on the first phase, and with city staff, and city attorney, city administrator, and Jerry and everyone, and I thought it went extremely well. And so, you know,
That's the
I
best you
think,
can
I
ask for.
think their fear is that it's gonna turn into pandemonium.
Yeah.
And if we just do they feel heard, I think, and the city has put forth some, I said, so what about the dumping that was occurring? And he said, oh, that's been great, as soon as we follow city, Jerry, Jeff, you know, it's gone.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're building some.
Yeah.
It
We're
was,
trying.
it was positive.
I thought so.
Yeah, it was really positive. The people were nice when they were.
Yeah, I thought it went very well. So baby steps.
Does anybody have anything for long term that we haven't discussed?
All I have is complete and all necklace.
Yeah, I have trail system also.
Mine has a continuation of building private public relationships and other sources of funding, just keep going.
Yeah.
Going. Keep that income. coming.
I think we'll put you in charge of that.
Okay, I'll do the industrial part, but that's.
Jerry, how many, do you, ballpark, how many homeowners do you know are out there to complete the umbrella? Private property,
How many are left?
yeah,
Wow.
A lot?
That's, yeah, a lot. I mean, a lot. We're getting it built by development as
Yeah.
it goes in, but you got this whole thing.
but you got the big property owners that,
And then you got the gun club
yeah,
over there where they're,
well, maybe this, I mean,
well, they'll connect up the next to the.
how does your family feel about that
Yeah.
on farm ground?
Yeah, they'll write to me at the end tomorrow.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, the farm is getting squeezed out eventually through the years. They're leasing it from Monica Rentals, which is kind of the descendants of the original people. And so someday, hopefully they'll farm for quite some time.
Yeah.
But once things start to develop towards the north there, the intention is to donate.
Jolly Parkland.
Yeah, well, to donate at least the trail and stuff. We'll have to.
We still want the STC credits for the development for that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not the one that's knowledgeable on this subject, but
Yeah.
that's kind of something that's.
Would that be the next best piece to do from Wayside to Malala River?
It'd be fabulous.
I mean, but
It
But
just.
what's the next realistic
I
thing
don't
to
know
do?
that,
I
but
would
for long,
say-
I think it should be a long term for sure.
I would say next to me, probably Ivy Ridge,
It's already portions.
over to top, yeah, over to Tofty, when that gets done,
Malala,
probably, that'll be a big section.
And then would they just use 13th down to the, or?
You kind of have to look at the urban growth boundary too, because the areas that are gonna be developed are within the urban growth boundary, right? So
Right.
those would be implemented.
And that's to the river over on that
The
side.
nice thing is, Dave, is 7 acres, Doug Sprague brought that path up Maple. So that kind of,
Oh,
you can get over, walk up the walking path and kind of zip up Maple now, which is kind of a neat deal along your guys' family's property. But
I know, yeah, that makes.
so we just need to finish the sidewalks and stuff down Maple so we can connect them to like the splash pad and all that.
So we need to go through the midterm and highlight the ones that we think or I think it's,
Some of them are
I mean, it's-
continuation.
yeah, a lot of them are continuations that will continue over the long term as well. But I think a few of those could definitely be,
The renovating Wake Park sure got a lot of attention.
oh yeah,
Sure.
yep.
That'll be a big fight when they want to invest, they take the trees.
I just talked to Brian about it, said we need to do that while he's still here.
Okay, flat for it. That woman who was at our last meeting, she'll be.
No.
Not a big supporter of it.
I think under midterm, develop Ivy Ridge Estates parcel. I mean, that is something that could easily be done in 4 to 6.
Recreational programming, very big deal.
Because we need, it was talked about in here that we need 5 additional acres of additional neighborhood parks.
1.5.
But the other one over here is 2.3, so you're getting close. 5 to 2, yeah.
So highlight and renovate Wake.
Develop Ivy Ridge.
This one?
That's right.
Well, it's there, it's there. I think we could do it, not a whole lot of money. It's there kind of sitting for us.
That's a good build-in one,
Yeah,
because
it
it's not
is.
gonna
That's-
cost a fortune,
and
it's
that's
kind of
a-
like your trail.
And that's a lot of homes over there. It won't be big money.
Yeah.
Are we gonna turn it into a park or we're just gonna put it into grass?
Well, it'll be a park, but I mean, grass first is a park.
Are you gonna have play structures?
We can develop it as we go, yeah.
Which connects to the Emerald Necklace.
River access. Not very.
So with the
Oh, yeah.
Wayside.
Well, that's awful high bank right there. That's not a great area. I think if we can get Malala State Park somehow, they do have somebody said there's a beach down there.
That's a better site.
Well, on the river, I said, you look like Wilsonville Memorial Park.
they have the dock to go, I mean, they have the pilings and everything else, so you can access, they kind of like the same deal, it's a big drop off.
Or
Could they do that at the end of the logging road down where the old boom is?
Could they?
I mean,
I've seen three
Yeah, I mean, they could, but it's.
dragging kayaks across the field now. They're doing where the old irrigation cutout is,
No.
right, Jeff? Isn't that where they're dragging them to?
Correct. We also have kind of an access down off the disc golf courses or cut back road someone used to have a well on. So there is access where you can get down naturally without a dock. It would take some work.
And there's fishing access, because lots of people who can come back to the logging trail go through either straight through at the early part of the logging trail or up by the frisbee court, et cetera. And they go over that, coming back in the evening with their catch of fish. And they've been walking through the wetlands in order to get, in some places, in order to get from the logging trail to the river. But there's a lot of parking in the logging trail parking lot that has nothing to do with the logging trail. It's to get access.
And that's where I get to the master plan on that, because obviously if you put it down at the end of the log, you have to walk all the way down there, so you gotta have parking, or you know what I mean, so you're,
That's
that's where you wanna try to do the master planning, and so like, okay, you got parking, now we put this.
So instead of wayside river access, should it just be wayside master plan?
Well, yeah.
And it was my understanding when Joe Lindsay met with us, that we were up in City Hall, and he went through that whole charter, and we were so limited on all we can do on that way, all we could do is a little bit on Three Sisters property for like 8 acres, but pretty much the rest of it, we couldn't
Right.
really touch.
Couldn't touch.
Well, I think you can't develop on it, but you could do trails and you
But
can
yeah,
do,
no parking lots.
well, right, that's where the sister property would be your
Right.
parking, because that area, whole area is,
Exactly.
there's 10 spots over there, whatever that eco park holds, but if you're gonna build a dog park and this, and that,
But the dog park, there you can put
you're gonna have, so that's where that's kind of like, I just kind of design it first before we do it.
Right.
Pigeonhole ourselves with the dog park and then everything else you can't do because you
And
can't.
we have Malala State Park that has, and they're gonna fix the boat.
Well, that's,
So, I mean, there is river access already there.
see, I'm saying, why would we spend money there when we could spend it at Malala? I mean, if everything pans out like we would like, I mean, wouldn't it be more beneficial
Yes.
to develop Malala
Yeah.
instead of putting money toward, wayside?
But we don't, yeah, but I guess we gotta, today, we don't have that luxury, so we gotta figure out. How do we address
Would that be acquiring? We can't say, well, acquire Malala State Park.
Well,
We
that's,
can't acquire what we can use.
Well, we might,
No,
we can buy it from them maybe.
For river access, go to Malala State Park. We'll advertise it that way.
it is in discussion. I
What are
guess.
the odds that something can happen there? Pretty good.
At Malala State Park,
If
50-50.
it's on the table, and I would say it's 50-50. I mean, well,
We don't have to
I
have,
don't know.
Make it happen, Barry.
I don't know. That's,
we don't have to have it, we can still say, hey, for people from the city, if you want to get to the river, go down to Malala State Park. You don't have to have.
well, they go down there now, but it's not very good.
And there's a whole lot of jam up of cars that are backing down in a very small space.
Well, that's
So much folks.
It's it, bad shape, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we want to keep going in midterm?
Yeah.
Let's get her going.
The vision for community park and then the renovate. Where it
I like
comes
that.
Recreational programming. Jerry, don't we need education?
We're gonna have to start sometime.
Yeah,
We
it'd be
sure
nice
do.
to have the kids things back there and the exercise groups back
Right under
there.
rec center.
I think that's more under
It's that,
capital two, though.
Yeah.
and it's the Parks and Rec department, it's all connected, and it's so unknown right now, but it's.
Right.
So certainly, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would, because I had it down under short-term also.
What about trails? I think at 4 to 6, we need to start getting going.
I mean, it's two. It's an ongoing discussion. Well, and in the book, it says, midterm, so I would,
Stuff like that's.
everybody, I mean,
Get it done.
trails is, it's constantly comes up.
We can ask Jeff Milkus, but there is a lot of pretty strong language in the master plan about getting a department established, that we're at a place where we really need to have the permanency in the Parks and Rec department. And an administrator who knows the turf a lot better, who could do things that we have no idea how to do.
It's funding, so it's funding that program. The city council now.
It's not gonna happen
But
until
maybe
Capra.
when
gets
Calvert
it.
comes on
Right,
board, then,
that's where Cabot,
yeah.
we didn't carry Cabot over to midterm. did we?
Well, because we call it a process.
Depends on how fast they act.
It's true. It's gotta go to a vote of the people.
And Ryan, would we be revisiting this, as we get into near the end of the 1 to 3 year, and then relook it and reshuffle based on, maybe we've gotten more done or less, things have to get.
Yeah, I would think that would be one of the main functions of this group is and working with staff on a progress report.
I think acquire park plan should always be. That should be on every one of them.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna get a new park when they get the Tofty Farms thing. There's another piece.
It's
coming.
gonna be a private,
Oh, private,
HOA
okay.
managed.
So that new park they just cleared out, is that all?
It's like going out,
It's all
you know, it's
the
bridge on the left, there'll be a loop one in that phase, they're doing it like, they've chopped it up a little because housing market slowed down a
We
little bit.
didn't have,
Will they take it all the way to the river?
we didn't
Go to the
start our
park.
sports complex.
Yeah, that's what I
But
mean.
I think it should.
Eventually.
Yeah, but
Well, let it,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of just put it with the acquire land for future parks, but it could be more specific in the sports complex.
Right. I mean, yeah, sports comp would,
Probably should be at least circled over here,
right,
Which one?
sports complex.
and under long-term over there, I mean, that was my develop athletic complex and community center, that goes hand in hand with that one.
Do you think council might be confused if it's showing up on multiple ones? Should we say which stages that we want?
It's all spelled out. in
You could put master plan on that,
Jeff.
and then over here, complete on long term.
But this is the stuff, we've got to narrow it down, what's in there, we've got to narrow it down to send to our recommendations to the city. And we need to be more specific stuff. It's not exactly.
It's just finality. where if priorities are.
In our proposal to the council, we could preface that, you know, there's the unknowns, the cavern, those things. Once those are known, then we would look at establishing a Parks and Recreation department so that all of these other things can start flowing and then they take over that. The funding is in place. So right now, maybe we could explain that in our overall presentation, that, you know, there's a lot of these kind of hinge on Capert, right?
Which is funding, I agree.
Funding.
Are we at a position now that, I mean, I think everybody.
I wanna do-
Added a lot of. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to do one more push. Thinking realistically, the chances of us, just us, doing all of the things we've got on that list, or even getting a portion of them done, would be so much easier. I don't think we can accomplish any of our dreams and hopes if we don't have an administrator who's going to bat for us with Scott, who really wants Parks and Rec to prosper, and going to city, helping us with city council and doing the legwork it's going to take for this stuff to happen. I really think that this is wishful thinking unless we get, I don't know about the department idea, but unless we get an administrator who knows how to do this stuff, who's done it in other places, somebody like Scott. I don't.
Why can't we use Scott? Since
That's my,
well, since he's already on the payroll, why can't we just use him? I mean, basically, you're looking for somebody to be our champion, right? Do that.
Well, I think-
well, to be our,
I mean,
to be our leader and provide the expertise we don't have.
But I think, you know, I think Jeff is our champion and he's going to be our voice to Scott. And then Scott is gonna need to take it to council. I mean, we've got somebody on staff already that is going to, you know, he's been working with us all this time.
Almost 27 years.
And he's got the time and he's got the knowledge and he's helped us all along. And so we ought to continue with that until Cabard, who knows if Cabard's ever gonna come to fruition, we don't know. But right now, we've got somebody on staff that is able to.
Well, yeah, but he's got a full-time job already. This is a huge, I mean, think about what's gotta happen for these things.
The budget impact is 200 grand for just the administrative, according to Jeff. And so we need to have the city council give us $200,000 to hire somebody, or we're gonna have to have Capper fund us.
I think that's precisely the question to put to the mayor, frankly.
Well, and it's gonna come down to it at some point in time.
But also Jeff Snyder budgeted $1 million that got approved for projects this year. Different SDCs for stuff out of the master plan. So I would think that would fill in the short term, right?
Right.
And then maybe help with the midterm, getting that started, so.
What would it cost to finish Maple? With me thinking it's turf, basketball court.
Was asked to look into not doing things on the cheap anymore. So redoing the playgrounds, I was looking at for very nice set of equipment. That was something like $650,000, I believe it was.
Just for the equipment.
The 2.5 by 12, and then there's a couple basketball courts we're going to be revamped. One turned into a tennis court, and then there was talk of the field being put into synthetic.
The infield.
The infield, correct. I have recommendations on that too at a different time. I believe it's in the master plan about using more of a cushion turf rather than the rubber infill. I know we have a price on rubber infill, but I have concerns of that. So just discussion to be continued. So we're around $1 million there, easy.
For just the infields?
No, that scope I just described.
To finish.
There it
Yeah.
is.
And there's a little bit of trail work to be done too. We need to upgrade things more ADA compliant.
Can we use SDCs for any of that stuff?
Expanding capacity, yeah, so we'd have to look into what that portion would be. Maybe tennis, basketball courts, all this stuff. Make playgrounds bigger, yes.
Turf and infields, what are
Turf
that?
and infields, there's probably expand capacity because, you know, we play on the longer use.
Baseball, want to move in.
We're just start,
Well,
we'll start a rental program then.
That would codify.
Wow.
So we'll start a rental program then.
Yes.
Charging rent.
Well, I thought we were just saying that it would, because right now softball uses Maple exclusively, and so if they had turf over there, I know, the basement, I mean, so that would cause a, they would have to figure out how to buy this field to, you know. You guys.
So are we good?
Oh, yeah,
Are we good over here
sure.
now? Are we good on the short, mid, and long for council?
Do you, well, do you feel that we've discussed this, that there's enough meat for you to put something professional together that we can discuss at our next meeting? Maybe, I don't know if that's too fast. I mean, our next meeting is what, 2 weeks from today?
Well, I thought the idea was that your recommendation was gonna go to council next month, or on the 17th, I guess, yeah,
17th of
this month.
this month. But that's I mean, we're gonna wanna see, I mean, this isn't our finished package, right? I mean, you're gonna summarize it for somebody else.
Yeah, I'll send you what I have. And then you can massage it. On the long term, are all of those basically long term? Did we agree?
I would say yes.
And with this list, we still haven't really cross-referenced the past 20 years, correct? Some of these things that
Well,
may really show their head and be like, yep, these things were here 20 years ago, and here they are again.
Some of them are, some of them definitely.
So that would be, I think, good to know.
Yeah.
As well, before we. And I believe this document is somewhat floating, so it's not like, if we don't get it on this thing, like, they're gonna come back and say, well, sorry,
well, that's why I say that wouldn't we
on a second,
I mean-
think about that.
Wouldn't we want to discuss this at our next meeting, you know, what we come up with? And, I mean, like it's a flowing down. Is it gonna be ready to go to city council on their meeting Wednesday after ours? You know,
What maybe you could do is just put your plan together, get it out to us, we all have a chance to digest it. Then at our meeting, we can approve it for a recommendation and then it can go, or is that too late to get it on?
It's too late, because it couldn't go into the packet.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So looking at your guys' list, and then we're taking this to council to adopt the master plan, but we're gonna work on the SDC charges later.
And then this is, basically advisory, the board
Exactly.
isn't asking them to adopt anything formal, it's, the document is the formal thing they're adopting, and then this is, I'm assuming what it just accompanies your.
We're an advisory board, we're just
Right.
saying,
And
this is what we recommend.
Would that go to the SDC portion of this? That's what I'm curious. Like this list is a recommendation to the council and all that, because I'm looking at our old CIP that Jeff put in this. And some of this stuff's on there, so it would be eligible for SDCs to currently use, even though this isn't adopted. So does that play into your short term at all?
Yes,
This list right here,
but we don't know.
and it's on there, Maple's on there, so I think you guys are all on the right track here by looking at this, and we have budgeted money.
So Jerry, you're saying we could take the plan to council on the
Yep.
17th, adopt it, and then this would come as a second step.
And it would,
Drive
and
with SDCs.
it would work with our old SDC methodology and master plan. CIP right here on it, if anyone wants to look at it.
Jerry, remember, we also had a discussion about off of this here, we can, with
What
this
page are
group,
you on?
You don't, I don't know if you have this one handy. I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead. This is separate.
off this list here, is the projects you want to do, we can develop a new CIP, which will reflect what your wishes and
With,
projects are.
exactly, Jeff, when we update this, then this would funnel into that. But for a recommendation, have council adopt the Parks Master Plan with, looks like Maple and some of these that are on here, we could do this year. And then start working on all of, that would give this group time to work on even short, midterm, and long-term CIP when we update the methodology and adopt it.
Would you distribute this list?
I can make copies for everyone if they want.
In the budget,
Great.
correct?
Jeff, with that new CIP, does that filter into this budget year? Is it
Yeah,
22,
it's a
23?
5-year plan for your
It's right here. If anyone caught, this is what Jeff gave me out of our old capital improvement plan, sorry. But anyone that wants this, I can give it to them today, but might help with your decision, and Ryan, make it easier on Ryan's staff report.
Okay. Makes it more
And Barbara, I'll
realistic.
give you a copy.
And
And
just make. 10 copies.
Okay.
Give everybody. Thanks, Jerry.
And so when this recommendation goes to council for the plan, should we acknowledge that you guys are working on that so that they know?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Or another option, if they really want to see this on the 17th, we could do a Zoom meeting.
They're more worried about this.
Yeah, I don't think they actually asked for this.
Right.
I think it's.
After they did just this, it'd be nice for them to see that.
Or, yeah, they'll develop. Maybe they'll.
What's the date of the next city council?
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow?
and then the 17th.
Okay,
And then that gives me more time for Lisa and I to create a nice version of
Yes.
this. But either way, you should probably vote on your final recommendation to adopt, for council to adopt the plan. Adopt it with the given edits.
Talking about the master plan.
Right.
What should the motion say? We recommend adoption of the master plan. I'll make the motion that this advisory board recommend the adoption of the master plan.
As amended by the edits,
As amended by
the edits that were made for.
the edits.
Tonight. Okay, so Barbara makes a motion to pass the master plan, or approve the master plan with the amendments that we discussed today. Does anybody second? Scott seconds. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so. Cheryl.
everybody get one of these CIPs?
Just sign our.
Yes.
Notes.
No, I'll get this.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This meeting is adjourned.
Well done.
All in favor, say
Hi.
You did this, Maple Park Playground, and stick it with me now.
No, I said that was, I made that list up 3 years ago, so that was an estimate. I just had, I mean, I was given an hour with the finance director to project goals. So I thought I had plenty of money at that, but I didn't have sports courts in there. We did that portion of the pickleball.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy.
This stuff.
That's been good.
coming out.
Oh, my goodness.
But it was so scary.
That's not the adoption, this was the plan, it's not the adoption.
Okay. So this is the-
This was just something we had from the past, because it's supposed to be a 5-year.
So this is gonna be adjusted.
This is what we want you folks to decide, is what will our project be? Okay, I mean, I can make them up. Not make them up, but you know what I mean, I can suggest. That's where that park tour will come in, where you want to assess each park.
Well, that must have been bad. No, it's on.
Well,
A little side conversation.
did we log on? Nope. we're not on.
Sorry.
Okay, so you did swim.
Yeah.
Just one way back here, Derek.
It's my office.
That's all right. Wherever I'm at, this is